Chosen one. Command your thoughts to completely quiet down for just 60 seconds, because what I am about to reveal changes everything about how you woke up today. The words you prayed this morning, whether they were silently screamed into the steering wheel of your car before work, or just a heavy, exhausted sigh while staring blankly at the edge of your bed, did not disappear into the void. You thought you were just venting to yourself. You thought that suffocating brain fog, that heavy knot in your chest, and your pure exhaustion meant you were completely disconnected from the Creator. You were wrong. The spiritual realm does not measure the volume of your voice. It measures the vibration of your pain. Your raw desperation this morning was not just a prayer. It was a massive frequency spike. It was so intense that it literally disrupted the spiritual atmosphere. God slammed the brakes on everything he was orchestrating to look directly at your timeline. Mentally anchor your spirit right here. Do not let your mind wander, and do not scroll away. The algorithm did not put this in front of you. Divine interception did. Heaven stopped for you this morning, and the exact frequency you need to escape this loop has just arrived. But you must stay with me until the very end of this transmission. Do not click away, because by the end of this message, you will not just understand why you feel so drained. I am going to reveal the exact 3-gate frequency defense you need to protect your mind, and the specific 7-minute ancient activation that will permanently lift this fog. If you leave now, you will walk right back into the exact same trap tomorrow morning, so stay mentally locked in. Let us go back to the exact moment you woke up. I know what happened. You opened your eyes, and before your feet even touched the cold floor, a wave of sheer exhaustion hit you. A raw, unfiltered thought crossed your mind. You asked yourself, why am I so tired when the day has not even started? Why does my brain feel like it is wrapped in thick, heavy clouds? You tried to pray, but it felt like your words were hitting a brass ceiling and falling right back down on you. You have been told your whole life to just pray harder, to just be still. In the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." But you need to understand what the original Hebrew text actually says, because the English translation misses the raw truth. The Hebrew word used for be still is rapha. Rapha does not mean to just sit quietly in a room. It means to let go, to drop your weapons, to let your arms fall limp. It is a military command for a soldier to stop fighting. But how can you, Rapha? How can you drop your weapons and relax when your mind is racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour? How can you be still when your brain frequency is completely chaotic, buzzing with anxiety, stress, and 1,000,000 overlapping thoughts? You cannot, and God knows you cannot. He saw you trying to Rapha this morning, trying to find peace, but your mental antenna was completely jammed by a frequency you could not control. That is why your exhausted sigh, your desperate plea for just one moment of real peace, triggered a massive alarm in the courts of heaven. When your broken frequency reached the throne, God did not just nod in sympathy. He stopped the spiritual traffic. He halted the divine counsel. He looked directly at your coordinates because he realized your spiritual receiver is under attack. But heaven did not just stop to watch you struggle. The Creator dispatched something specific, not a lightning bolt to strike down your earthly enemies, not a sudden pile of money to fix your temporary bills. He sent a key, a very specific key to unlock the invisible cage you do not even realize you are trapped inside right now. But before I can hand you that key, you have to see the cage. When I say the word cage, your mind immediately goes to the visible bars holding you back. You think about the financial pressure that wakes you up at 3 in the morning with a tight chest, wondering how you are going to make it to the end of the month. You think about the people who smiled in your face, ate at your table, drank from your cup, and then walked away the exact second you needed them to stand by your side. You think about the years you have lost, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers, and the sheer, crushing isolation of being the only one in your bloodline who sees the world differently. You probably thought, that when God stopped everything in the spiritual realm this morning, he was finally looking down at those circumstances. You thought he was finally turning his wrath toward the people who broke you. Let us be brutally honest for a second. Deep down, hidden beneath your polite prayers, there is a raw, unfiltered thought that screams, God, make them pay. Show them they were wrong about me. Vindicate me. Give me the massive breakthrough, just so they are forced to watch me walk into the blessing they tried to sabotage. You are waiting for the ultimate payback. You have heard the scriptures your whole life. You have heard Psalm chapter 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Every preacher on the internet tells you this means God is going to elevate you and make your haters watch you eat. They tell you it is a promise of public vindication. They tell you your enemies will be forced to witness your success. But we need to dive into the actual historical context of that verse, because you have been given a shallow version of a massive spiritual truth. David did not write that verse while sitting comfortably in a royal palace. He wrote it while he was literally running for his life in the brutal, unforgiving wilderness. King Saul was actively hunting him with a highly trained military force. David was starving, exhausted, and surrounded by men who wanted him dead. When God prepared that table in the wilderness, it was not a VIP section in a restaurant, so David could take pictures and show off to his haters. It was supernatural, raw provision in the middle of a literal war zone. The food on that table was not for his ego. It was the specific fuel he needed to survive the night. And this brings us to the devastating truth about your current situation. You have been waiting for God to prepare a table in front of your human enemies. You are waiting for him to fix the bank account, change your environment, and silence your critics. You are 100% convinced that your circumstances are the cage keeping you trapped. But I have to tell you a truth that is going to shift your entire reality. When God stopped the spiritual traffic this morning, he did not look down at your boss. He did not look at your ex. He did not look at your bank account. The reason your prayers feel like they are hitting a brick wall, the reason you feel so completely and utterly exhausted before you even get out of bed, is because you are fighting the completely wrong enemy. Your human enemies are just a distraction. The debts are just a symptom. The cage is not outside of you. The cage is inside your skull. When God intercepted your frequency this morning, he looked directly at your spiritual antenna. He looked at the very mechanism your brain uses to receive divine instruction, to hear his voice, to process supernatural wisdom. And what he saw was that your antenna is completely, intentionally jammed. You are not just tired, you are infected. Let this truth sink deep into your spirit right now. The heavy brain fog you woke up with today is not a natural medical condition. Your inability to focus, your constant fatigue, the way your mind races with anxiety but produces no solutions, this is not because you are weak. You are suffering from what I call the matrix virus. It is a calculated, highly intentional, spiritual, and technological assault against your mind. Society, the system, the matrix, whatever name you want to give it, is entirely designed to keep your mental frequency violently low. Think about your daily existence. From the exact moment you open your eyes, you are bombarded with low-frequency static. The endless, mindless scrolling on your phone that drains your dopamine. The toxic news cycles designed to keep your nervous system in a constant state of panic. The chemical-laden food that slows your processing speed. The relentless stress of a system that demands you trade your life force just to barely survive. This is not a coincidence. This is a targeted suppression strategy. The system knows exactly who you are. The system knows that if you, a chosen one, ever figure out how to operate at your true original frequency, you become utterly uncontrollable. You become a massive threat to the matrix. You would stop buying their distractions. You would stop seeking their validation. You would access the divine blueprint for your life and step into total sovereignty. So, they feed you cheap, artificial dopamine to kill your divine connection. They jam your signal so you cannot hear the orders from your true commander. Do not move your body. But right now, I want you to perform a mental scan of your own mind. Feel that thick, heavy, sluggish energy that constantly pulls you toward distraction. Notice how hard it is to just sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for a screen. That uncomfortable itch in your brain, that heavy static, that is the interference. That is the virus actively working to keep you numb. If you can identify that static in your mind right now, I want you to mentally push back. In your own mind, declare with absolute authority, I am breaking the static. Send that thought through your nervous system like a shock wave. You have been wondering why you feel so disconnected from your purpose. It is because your receiver is currently tuned to a frequency of survival, fear, and exhaustion, broadcasted 24/7 by a system that desperately wants you asleep. You cannot hear the voice of God clearly when your brain is drowning in the noise of the matrix. But how do you clean a virus that is invisible? How do you unjam an antenna that has been bent and twisted by years of trauma, programming, and modern conditioning? You have passed the endurance test. You survived the wilderness, but now you are facing high-level technological and spiritual sabotage. Your antenna was bent on purpose. But the Creator left a backdoor in your brain, a specific frequency band that has the power to force your antenna straight back into absolute stillness. That backdoor is a very specific, ancient frequency. For thousands of years, the greatest prophets, mystics, and spiritual leaders knew this frequency existed. They knew that in order to hear the voice of the Creator, they had to escape the low-level static of the world around them. Look at the undeniable pattern hidden right there in the scriptures. Moses did not just take a casual walk up Mount Sinai to receive the divine blueprint. He separated himself entirely and stayed in isolated elevation for 40 days. Jesus did not begin his public ministry the day he was baptized. He went deep into the barren wilderness for 40 days. Elijah, running for his life, exhausted and begging to die, traveled for 40 days to reach Mount Horeb just to hear the still small voice of God. Why 40 days? Why the complete and total isolation? It was not just a test of physical hunger, it was a neurological detox. They had to completely sever themselves from the chaotic, low-frequency noise of society to allow their physical brains to enter a highly specific, elevated state of consciousness. They had to tune their spiritual antennas. Modern science finally has a name for the exact state these ancient masters were accessing. They are called theta and gamma brainwaves. This is the God frequency. When your brain is producing theta waves, you are not just thinking, you are receiving, you are highly intuitive. You are tapped directly into the flow of divine intelligence, operating in a realm of pure creativity and profound spiritual connection. And this is the exact answer to why God stopped the spiritual traffic for you this morning. He did not halt the heavenly council to hand you a bag of money or to strike down your earthly enemies. He stopped because your desperate prayer signaled that you were finally ready to receive the access code to this frequency. He stopped to reconnect your severed antenna. But why is your antenna severed in the first place? Why can you not access this God frequency naturally anymore? Because the Matrix designed your modern life to literally shrink the part of your brain that produces it. This is the conspiracy you were never supposed to figure out. When you were a child, your brain was constantly flooded with theta waves. That is why you had boundless imagination. That is why you had sharp intuition. That is why you believed you could do anything. You were naturally operating at a genius, divine frequency. But then the system got a hold of you. They placed you in rows under artificial lights. They conditioned you to respond to bells and alarms. And as you grew older, the assault only intensified. The relentless 9-to-5 grind that drains your life force. The toxic artificial chemicals hidden in your food and water. The highly engineered social media algorithms on your phone designed specifically to hijack your dopamine and keep your nervous system trapped in a constant state of high stress, anxious beta waves. The system wants you in survival mode. Do you know why? Because people in survival mode do not question the matrix. People in survival mode are too exhausted to access divine wealth. People in survival mode do not step into their God-given authority. The matrix virus intentionally suppresses your theta waves, so you forget how incredibly powerful you actually are. I need you to understand that your genius, your prophetic sight, your ability to effortlessly manifest the promises of God, it is not dead. It is just dormant. It has been artificially suppressed by a world that is terrified of what you will do when you finally wake up. So, how do you fight back? How do you clear this matrix virus and force your brain back into the God frequency when you have bills to pay and you cannot abandon your family to walk into the desert for 40 days? You use the back door. You see, modern science has finally caught up to ancient spiritual wisdom. A massive study conducted by NASA researchers discovered that 98% of children operate at this natural genius level, but as adults, after years of societal programming, only 2% retain it. The matrix successfully dumbs us down. But a former NASA neuroscientist discovered something revolutionary. You can reactivate these dormant waves. You do not need to sit in a dark cave for decades. You can use sound. A highly specific, meticulously engineered sound technology was developed from this research that directly stimulates your brain to produce theta and gamma waves again. It is called the genius wave. This is not some generic meditation music where you have to cross your legs, force your eyes shut, and spend hours trying to empty your mind. You are a modern chosen one battling a modern matrix, and you need a modern weapon. This is a scientific, spiritual activation tool. It is a simple, 7-minute daily ritual that physically washes the matrix virus out of your neural pathways. Right now, in your mind, visualize that thick, heavy brain fog that has been weighing you down all morning. Picture it like a dense, dark smoke inside your head. Now, imagine a pure, invisible, resonating sound wave striking that smoke, shattering the static instantly, and leaving behind a brilliant, crystal-clear light. That is exactly what this technology does to your brain. You simply put on your headphones for 7 minutes at home and let the sound technology physically retune your spiritual antenna. It bypasses the conscious, stressed-out, overthinking part of your mind and goes straight to the root, waking up the dormant, divine power inside you. Ancient wisdom combined with NASA-backed modern technology. This is your shortcut back to divine alignment. This is how you clear the virus. You do not exhaust yourself trying to fight the static, you simply overwrite it with a much higher frequency. Now you know about this 7-minute activation tool. The ancient frequency is back in your hands. But listening to it is only 50% of the battle. If you do not build an impenetrable defense system around it, the matrix will steal your frequency right back before lunchtime. This is the 3-gate frequency defense protocol that you absolutely must establish. The first gate you must violently guard is the gate of your eyes. The matrix knows that your vision is the fastest, most direct pathway to alter your brain waves. You can spend your morning isolated, doing your 7-minute activation, feeling your theta waves rise, and feeling deeply connected to the Creator. But the exact second you open a social media app and start endlessly scrolling, you are actively handing the matrix the remote control to your brain. You flood your mind with engineered outrage, fear-based news, and the fake, filtered highlight reels of other people. Instantly, your brain crashes out of the God frequency and plummets back into chaotic, anxious beta waves. In the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 22, Jesus said, "The eye is the lamp of the body." If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But you have to understand the deep, historical context of what he was actually teaching here. He was not just giving a simple moral lesson about not looking at bad things. He spoke these words immediately after teaching about money, anxiety, and where you store your treasure. The original Greek word used for healthy in this text is haplous, which actually means single or totally focused. He was talking about your frequency. If your focus is divided by the anxieties of the matrix, if you are constantly consuming the visual static of the world, your entire internal ecosystem becomes dark, chaotic, and operating on a severely low frequency. You must guard what enters your lamp. I want you to make a mental decree right now. You do not need to move a single muscle. Just in your mind, imagine a heavy, impenetrable steel vault door slamming shut over your vision. Mentally declare to the universe, I will not consume the poison of the matrix. Make that your permanent boundary. If you feel led to establish a physical anchor for this spiritual decree, go to the comments right now and type the words, My vision is guarded. Let that be your digital footprint of defiance. The second gate you must secure is the gate of your ears. And this is where it gets incredibly painful for a chosen one, because the matrix will use the people closest to you to hijack your frequency. You know exactly what I am talking about. You do your morning activation, you finally feel aligned, your brain fog is gone, and then you walk into your workplace or answer a phone call from a family member. The very first thing they do is start complaining. They dump their trauma, their endless drama, their gossip, and their relentless victim mentality right into your pristine spiritual atmosphere. They are frequency vampires. Because they cannot access the God frequency themselves, their subconscious mind is terrified of your rising vibration. So they actively try to drag you back down into their low-frequency mud. You have a healer's heart, so your first instinct is to listen and try to fix them. But you must stop. You cannot heal a frequency vampire by bleeding out your own energy. When someone starts broadcasting that low-frequency static, you do not have to argue with them. You do not have to preach to them. You just have to mentally detach. Imagine a thick, soundproof glass wall dropping instantly between you and them. You can see their lips moving, you can smile politely, but their chaotic frequency cannot penetrate your field. You hear them, but you do not absorb them. The third and final gate is the gate of your mouth. Guarding this gate requires what I call strategic silence. This is the ultimate seal on your energy. When you start utilizing the sound technology, when your brain actually begins to operate at a genius level, you are going to experience massive downloads. You are going to get sudden business ideas, profound revelations about your relationships, and crystal clear prophetic insights about your future. The absolute biggest mistake you can make in that moment is opening your mouth and sharing those downloads with people who are still asleep. When you speak your high-frequency visions to low-frequency people, their immediate doubt, jealousy, and skepticism will act like a virus against your new reality. You want their validation, but they can only give you their limitations. Furthermore, you must rigorously monitor your own complaints. If you spend 7 minutes activating the mind of Christ, but then you spend the next 7 hours speaking words of poverty, exhaustion, and defeat over your own life, you are actively canceling out your own activation. Your words create worlds. Strategic silence means you keep your mouth completely closed until your physical reality matches your internal frequency. You do not announce your moves. You do not complain about the process. You hold the energy inside. Now, listen to me very carefully. You have the sound tool. You hold the 3-gate protocol. Logically, you should be invincible starting tomorrow morning. You know exactly how to activate the dormant power inside your skull and exactly how to protect it from the matrix. So why right now does a deep part of your soul feel absolutely terrified? Why does your stomach tie into knots at the very thought of actually becoming a genius? I am going to tell you a truth that most people will never have the courage to admit. You need to brace your spirit for this, because it is going to shine a blinding light on the darkest corner of your psyche. The reason your stomach drops, The reason you feel that sudden spike of dread when you hold the ultimate solution in your hands is because a hidden shadow part of you is absolutely terrified of your own potential. Yes, you hate the matrix. Yes, you hate the brain fog. Yes, you are sick and tired of being exhausted. But there is a dark, uncomfortable comfort in that exhaustion. Think about it with brutal honesty. If your brain is constantly foggy, if your frequency is constantly jammed by the system, then you have a built-in excuse for why you have not stepped into your ultimate divine purpose. You can point to your empty bank account, your toxic environment, your endless fatigue, and you can say to the universe, "Look, I am just doing my best to survive." You get to play the role of the noble victim, the struggling warrior who is just trying to make it through the day. But what happens when the fog actually clears? What happens when you use the 7-minute activation, you guard your 3 gates, and suddenly you possess the absolute, unclouded clarity of a genius? What happens when the divine downloads start pouring in, giving you the exact blueprint to build that empire, to write that message, or to completely relocate your life? If you have the mental clarity, you no longer have the excuse. If you have the blueprint, you have the terrifying responsibility to actually build the building. That is what you are actually afraid of. You are not afraid of failing. You are deeply, profoundly afraid of succeeding. Because if you operate at the God frequency, you can no longer fit in with the people around you. You will outgrow your current friends. You will outgrow your current income. You will outgrow the very identity you have spent decades building. You are grieving the death of your old, limited self before the new, limitless you has even been fully born. You think this fear makes you a coward. You think the fact that you are hesitating means you are not truly a chosen one, or that you are somehow unworthy of the frequency. You could not be more wrong. Let us look at the ancient texts, because you are walking the exact same psychological path as the greatest prophets in history. When you read the English translation of the scriptures, you see the word glory all the time. You read about the glory of God descending. In our modern Western minds, we think of glory as something shiny. We think of a bright light, a halo, or some kind of golden glow. But the ancient prophets understood it entirely differently. The original Hebrew word used for glory in the Old Testament is kabod. And kabod does not mean shiny. It literally translates to weight. It means heaviness. It is a mass of profound substance. The scriptures describe that when the kabod, the weight of God, filled the ancient temple, the priests literally could not stand on their feet. The frequency was so dense, so heavy with pure power and absolute responsibility, that it drove strong men straight to the floor. What you are feeling right now in your stomach, that heavy dread, that knot of anxiety about stepping into your genius, is not weakness. It is your spirit sensing the kabod. It is your soul recognizing the massive, heavy weight of the calling that is about to be placed on your life. Fools rush into spiritual power thinking it is a game. They want the frequency just so they can manifest a new car or get a promotion. They do not feel the weight because they have no depth, but you feel it. You feel the gravity of what it means to be a conscious, awakened creator in a world that is completely asleep. Your fear is actually the ultimate proof of your readiness. Your hesitation is not cowardice. It is spiritual intelligence. You are no longer naive. You know that to carry the kabod, to carry the weight of this genius frequency, it is going to cost you your old life. It is time to make a decision. You can back away right now. You can return to the comfortable brain fog. You can let the matrix keep your antenna bent, and you can spend the rest of your life blaming the system for your lack of progress. Or you can accept the weight. I want you to perform a massive internal shift right now. Do not move your body. Do not change your posture. Just breathe in deeply, and in your mind's eye, visualize a heavy, ancient, royal mantle being draped over your shoulders. Feel the physical weight of it pressing down on you. It is heavy, but it grounds you. It makes you unshakable. In your mind, speak directly to the Creator and say, I accept the weight of my calling. I will no longer hide in the fog. If your spirit is truly ready to carry this, I want you to go to the comments right now and leave a permanent public record of your initiation. Type the words, I accept the weight. Let the physical act of typing those words be the bridge between your internal decision and your external reality. That fear means you are finally ready to carry the weight. You are no longer asleep. But do not just take my word for it. Let me show you what happens when a chosen one exactly like you, terrified, exhausted, but still willing, actually applies this exact frequency ritual. Let me take you back exactly 9 months ago. There was a chosen one, just like you, who was drowning in the exact same heavy, suffocating brain fog you woke up with this morning. They were trapped in a soul-crushing job, buried under financial pressure, and completely isolated. They knew they had a massive calling. They had brilliant ideas for a business, but every single time they tried to execute, the exhaustion took over. What made it worse was that they were constantly leaking their frequency. Every time they got a small burst of inspiration, they would open the third gate. They would open their mouth and tell their family, their co-workers, and their so-called friends about their big plans. And immediately, those low-frequency people would project their own matrix programming onto them. They would say, be realistic. In this economy, you are dreaming too big. And just like that, the inspiration would die and the heavy static would return. Then, they discovered the back door. They started utilizing the 7-minute sound technology every single morning. Before looking at their phone, before checking their bank account, they put on their headphones and let the engineered frequencies literally wash the matrix virus out of their neural pathways. They began producing theta waves again. The God frequency was reactivated, but here is the absolute key to their massive breakthrough. They enforced the gate of their mouth. They practiced strategic silence. As the daily 7-minute activation started downloading profound, genius-level ideas into their mind, they did not speak a word of it to anyone in the matrix. They held the energy inside. They let the frequency build and compound, day after day. By day 40, the breakthrough was undeniable. Because they stopped bleeding their energy to frequency vampires, they had the physical and spiritual vitality to actually execute the divine blueprint they were receiving. Within months, their financial reality completely inverted. The ideas they received in those quiet 7 minutes turned into a reality that completely shattered the generational curses of poverty in their bloodline. They stopped asking the Matrix for permission, and they started operating with the authority of the Creator. Now, let me tell you about another chosen one, just last year, who was fighting a completely different battle. They were trapped in a highly toxic relationship dynamic. They were dealing with a textbook frequency vampire. It could be a narcissistic partner, a manipulative parent, or a toxic friend. This vampire fed on their energy. Every time this chosen one tried to elevate their mindset, the vampire would create chaos, start an argument, or play the victim just to drag them back down into a chaotic, anxious beta wave state. This chosen one was physically sick from the constant spiritual drain. But then they started the 7-minute activation ritual, and more importantly, they aggressively locked the second gate, the gate of their ears. When the frequency vampire tried to dump their toxic static, this chosen one did not argue back. They did not try to heal them. They used the exact mental action I taught you. They mentally dropped that thick, soundproof glass wall. They allowed the Matrix agent to speak, but they refused to absorb the frequency. Do you know what happens to a parasite when you cut off its food supply? It leaves. Because this chosen one was consistently elevating their baseline frequency through the daily sound ritual and fiercely protecting their ears from the static, the toxic person literally could no longer exist in their reality. The energetic mismatch became so severe that the vampire naturally repelled out of their life. The environment was entirely purged. leaving behind absolute peace and clarity. You need to understand that this is not a coincidence. This is a divine pattern woven throughout the very fabric of the universe, and it is hidden in plain sight right there in the scriptures. If you look closely, the Bible is not just a history book. It is a frequency manual. Look at the undeniable pattern of the 40-day cycle. When God wanted to completely purge the earth of the corrupt, low-frequency matrix of Noah's time, it rained for exactly 40 days. When Moses needed to receive the divine laws, he had to separate himself from the complaining, low-frequency Israelites for exactly 40 days. When Jesus needed to solidify his spiritual authority before stepping into his public mission, he went into the wilderness, fasting from the noise of the world for exactly 40 days. This 40-day pattern is a neurological and spiritual reset protocol. It takes time to flush the matrix virus completely out of your system. It takes time for the 7-minute activation to permanently rewire your brain to naturally default to the God frequency. You are not just trying to have one good morning, you are trying to permanently alter your spiritual DNA. Right now, I want you to make a silent, unbreakable vow to your own spirit. You do not need to move. Just take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, mentally visualize a brilliant, impenetrable shield of light locking into place around your mind, your ears, and your mouth. You are sealing your gates. If you receive this revelation and you are ready to commit to your own reset protocol, go to the comments right now and type, "I am a witness." Let the universe see that you are stepping into the pattern of the ancients. They used the 7-minute ritual. They guarded their gates, and their reality completely shifted within 40 days. You are next. But I must warn you, the exact second you activate this frequency tomorrow morning, the enemy will not sit still. He knows exactly what happens when a chosen one wakes up. He has prepared exactly 3 counterattacks designed specifically for you. The first counterattack is the frequency of urgency. The exact moment you decide to step back, use your 7-minute activation, and trust the divine process, the enemy will flood your nervous system with a terrifying sense of panic. He will whisper in your ear that you are running out of time, that you are getting too old, that you have wasted too many years, and now you are irreparably behind in life. He wants to trigger your deep survival instincts so that you abandon your new frequency and rush right back into the matrix to force a result. To truly understand how deadly this trap is, we have to dive into the deep historical context of the first book of Samuel, chapter 13. The English translation simply says, King Saul offered a burnt offering himself because the prophet Samuel was late. But the context reveals a brutal psychological warfare tactic. Saul was not just being impatient. He was surrounded by a massive, heavily armed Philistine army. His own soldiers were terrified, hiding in caves and deserting him by the hour. Saul felt the crushing, suffocating weight of time slipping away. The atmosphere around him was completely saturated with the frequency of urgency. So, he panicked. He compromised his divine instruction and forced a human solution. And because of that single, rushed decision made in a low-frequency state of panic, he lost his entire kingdom forever. The Creator does not operate in panic. Heaven is never in a rush. When you feel that sudden tight knot in your chest tomorrow, telling you that you have to figure everything out this exact second, you must recognize it. It is not your intuition. It is a hostile frequency designed to make you forfeit your crown. The second weapon formed against you is the frequency of comparison. The very day you start producing those genius-level theta waves and guarding your gates, the matrix algorithm will suddenly flood your vision with illusions. You will see people with half your talent, zero spiritual depth, and absolutely no integrity, suddenly parading their massive success, their perfect relationships, and their effortless wealth right in front of your face. This is a highly calculated sniper attack on your spiritual antenna. The enemy knows that if he can make you look at their illusion and feel just one single drop of jealousy, bitterness, or self-pity, your frequency instantly plummets. Your brain crashes out of the God frequency and right back into chaotic beta waves. You must understand a brutal truth. The Matrix always rewards its most obedient slaves. It gives them shiny toys to keep them docile and distracted. Do not ever envy the chains of a slave just because they are painted gold. When you see their artificial success, I want you to perform a mental override. Do not move your body, just internally lock your focus and mentally declare, I do not covet the rewards of the Matrix. Let that thought shield your mind from the poison of comparison. The third and most deceptive counterattack is the frequency of fatigue. This is not the normal tiredness you feel after a long, hard day of work. This is a targeted, unnatural, spiritual sedation. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you will remember your commitment. You will think about putting on your headphones for your 7-minute activation ritual, and in that exact microsecond, a crushing wave of exhaustion will drop on you like a lead blanket. Your eyelids will feel impossibly heavy. A convincing voice in your head will say, just sleep for 10 more minutes. You can listen to the audio tomorrow. You need the physical rest. That is not your body talking. That is a spiritual anesthetic. The enemy is actively trying to sedate you before you can turn on the light switch in your brain. You have to push through that specific, heavy resistance. When that unnatural fatigue hits you, I want you to mentally visualize a sharp, brilliant spark of electricity igniting in the center of your forehead, instantly burning away the fog. I want you to focus entirely on your physical body right now. Pay attention to the subtle, steady rhythm of your heartbeat. Notice the slight vibration in the center of your chest as you absorb these words. That is not just your blood pumping, that is your spiritual DNA vibrating. It is the deep, undeniable resonance of a chosen one who has finally figured out the game. The Matrix tried to bury you in brain fog. It tried to derail you with panic. It tried to poison you with comparison and sedate you with unnatural fatigue. But it failed. You are still here. Your eyes are open. You are fully awake, and your antenna is finally realigned. You know the traps. You hold the frequency. You understand the defense system. All the pieces are on the board. But knowing the blueprint is not enough. You must be officially commissioned. Stand firm, chosen one, because your sealing activation ceremony begins right now. Do not move. Wherever you are right now, whether you are lying in the dark, sitting in traffic, or standing in a crowded room, I want you to mentally lock down your entire environment. Command your breathing to slow down. Command your racing thoughts to completely halt. I want you to mentally visualize a thick, impenetrable wall of blinding white light dropping down on all 4 sides of you. This is not a gentle bedtime prayer. This is not a polite request to the universe. This is a high-level spiritual extraction. This is a military-grade frequency activation. You are about to be officially commissioned, and you must receive this with your entire spirit. By the absolute authority of the Creator of all frequencies, the Alpha and the Omega, the Supreme Architect of the human mind, and the Designer of the cosmos, I declare that the spiritual atmosphere in this exact moment has violently shifted. The Matrix no longer has jurisdiction over the mind hearing my voice. The low-frequency static that has been suffocating you is officially evicted from your timeline. Father, you saw them this morning. You saw the exact moment they almost broke. You felt the raw, suffocating weight in their chest before their feet even touched the cold floor. You saw the heavy, blinding brain fog that has been paralyzing their brilliance. You heard that desperate, unfiltered sigh they released into the steering wheel, that silent scream that echoed through the courts of heaven. They have been fighting a massive, invisible war. They have been carrying the heavy, generational weight of their bloodline. They have been drained by frequency vampires and suffocated by a system meticulously designed to keep them asleep, numb, and exhausted. But they did not surrender. They survived the static. They held on to the line. And now, I officially seal their deliverance. I bind, I shatter, and I completely dismantle the 3 counterattacks of the enemy that have been deployed against their mind. I command the frequency of urgency to be permanently silenced right now. They will no longer rush. They will no longer panic. They will move with the unshakable, majestic pace of divine timing. I completely crush the frequency of comparison. They will no longer look at the golden chains of the matrix and feel a single ounce of lack or jealousy. Their eyes are fixed on their own divine blueprint, and I utterly obliterate the frequency of unnatural fatigue. The spiritual anesthetic is broken. The heavy lead blanket of exhaustion is lifted off their nervous system right now. I seal the 3-gate frequency defense protocol around their life. I seal the gate of their eyes. They will no longer consume the toxic, fear-based poison of the matrix. Their vision is entirely guarded and fiercely protected. I seal the gate of their ears. The chaotic, complaining static of frequency vampires will literally bounce off their spiritual shield. They will hear the noise of the world, but they will absolutely never absorb it. I seal the gate of their mouth. I lock their tongue with the power of strategic silence. They will incubate their divine downloads. They will keep their profound visions protected, and they will not cast their pearls before those who are still asleep. I seal the complete restoration of their dormant, genius mind. I seal the activation frequency into their daily ritual. Let the ancient back door in their brain be blown wide open. I declare that the heavy fog is permanently lifting. I declare that as you explore this sound technology, as you commit to your daily activation, your theta and gamma waves will align perfectly and effortlessly with the broadcasting station of heaven. Within the next 40 days, I decree and declare that explosive clarity will strike you like lightning. The precise, brilliant ideas you need to completely shatter your financial chains will be downloaded directly into your quiet, activated mind. The toxic people who have been draining your life force will be naturally and permanently repelled from your reality by the sheer power of your elevated vibration. You will no longer operate as a surviving victim of the matrix. You will operate with the undeniable, unshakable, terrifying intelligence of a true, awakened genius. The frequency is now in your hands. The defense protocol is permanently established. The ancient weapon is yours. Will you guard your gates? Will you commit to the 40-day alignment? Will you accept the heavy, glorious weight of this calling? I do not want you to open your mouth. If your spirit agrees with this commission, I want you to scream yes inside your own mind right now with every ounce of strength you have left. Let that internal roar register in the courts of heaven. Let it shake the spiritual realm. Heaven has recorded your vow. Your mind is no longer hijacked. Your antenna is flawlessly straight. You have been completely retuned to the frequency of the divine. Go into your day with the mind of Christ and the absolute sovereign authority of a chosen one. Do not say Amen yet. Sit in this pure, heavy, magnificent silence. Feel the static completely vanish from your brain. Feel the activation. Now, Amen.